Yo, welcome back in, all you DPC rebels and resistant fighters. Dr. Shane back with another Friday 5-minute magic tip. Hope you guys caught me last Friday where we talked about hybrid models and transition in DPC and how a hybrid model would work. Did part one of that. Got kind of long, so I broke it up into two parts, and I do part two of that. Last week we mostly talked about some definitions. What is a hybrid? How does that compare to uh, concierge, and how does it compare to traditional direct primary care and a DPC model? So today, I want to finish up that part two. We talked about the benefits, some of the serious benefits that having a hybrid. If you have a large practice, you're going to transition to DPC. Maybe using a hybrid could really be helpful to do that. Uh, Now, some concerns, some things that really concern me about it, doing a hybrid. Certainly, if you get stuck in a hybrid and you're going to continue to do that, that would be a concern for sure. Um, well, let's go through some of these real issues that make me go, about doing a hybrid practice, and why I would never consider doing it for myself. Um, so number one, obviously, the main thing is hybrids continue to work with insurance, right? Um, the article I mentioned in part one, you go back and I'll put it in the show notes again today. It's an article in Kevin MD about uh, transitioning your practice, the smart way to transition to direct care. And it talks a lot about using a hybrid. The very first sentence in this article talks about how doctors want to get out of insurance. They want to get away from insurance. That's the very first sentence. They're in a hybrid, you continue to deal with insurance. So you're addicted to insurance. You want to get out of that addiction, but you want to continue to use insurance in your addiction. So I don't understand the philosophy of doing that. Um, I would never tell an addicted person or an alcoholic or somebody, hey, just drink red or just drink a little bit of alcohol. You got to cut it off. You got to cut the snake's head off, man. Um, so you'll never basically be free of the burnout and the paperwork and the total nightmare that insurance is unless you get away from it. I know there's money issues. I know there's all kind of things you want to think about. But if you want to be rid of insurance, you must be rid of insurance. And that's just the way it has to be. Um, the second big thing is overhead. So as you know, currently the average is full-time equivalent employees that work for a primary care physician is between 3 and 5 employees to work with a physician. It's about 4.5 FTEs. So if you have 4 people working for you, doing clinical stuff, doing billing stuff, upfront stuff, your overhead is really high. To transition away from that high overhead, you must, to get to direct care, you must cut overhead. That is one of the huge, ginormous beauties of direct primary care is the low overhead. That's why lower patient volumes work. And you don't have to deal with all the insurance stuff because the math works because your overhead's 30-40%. It's much less, mainly due to staffing. Me and one nurse can take care of 500 patients, 600 patients. I don't need three other staff members, which costs money. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to cover the cost of those employees. So if you are switching to hybrid, you're continuing to use those same employees. How do you get to a full direct care model if you continue to have this massive overhead? You have to figure out how the overhead is going to change in time to transition away from a traditional practice into full direct care. Um, Not easy because that means you'll need less staff. So that means somebody's got to go. Uh, but you have to think about the overhead changes that'll be coming down the road. There are legal issues in my state. Blue Cross Blue Shield basically threatened me because I had a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield and I was doing membership plans with those employees. Cannot do membership plans if you have contracts with insurance companies. You have to be very careful about that. How they want you to file the insurance You don't want to get bound up in insurance fraud, Medicaid fraud, some kind of crazy investigation that you weren't prepared for. So there are definitely serious legal things you really need to think about to do a hybrid model. If you're going to do it for a long period of time, you really need some legal advice, legal help, and that is not cheap. So cost is the other big thing that's in my list. Uh, Due to the legal issues, you could end up spending a fair amount of money to make sure you're not running into any kind of insurance fraud or any kind of legal issues. You make sure your forms are right, make sure everything's correct in your office. And lawyers aren't cheap. It costs a lot of money to get that done. So you have to really protect yourself in those legal issues. Even concierge, you got to have really good contracts and everything. So the legal aspect of it is something to really consider if you go into a hybrid. And finally, the moral issue of hybrid. This one maybe doesn't get brought up as much, but as I thought about more and more of the hybrid model in my own practice, in my own urgent care, in my own primary care, things that I've done over the last 20 years, I couldn't wrap my brain around having half my patients' traditional insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, paying copays and deductibles. The other half is paying me $75, $80 a month, no insurance at all. And how do I treat those people the same? Even though my direct care patients are getting 24/7 access, so to speak, contact me on my cell phone, same day, next day appointments, all these benefits that direct care brings about. How do I do that for them and not do that for the insurance people? How do I treat those people differently? Do I treat those people differently? And if I do, what's the point of a membership uh, if the insurance people get the same thing the membership people get? So it was very difficult for me to wrap my brain around the moral side of that. Literally treating half my patients different. Hey, this is a direct care patient. I'm going to spend 30, 45 minutes with them because that's what we do in direct care. We block 30, 45 minutes off. Um, Insurance patients, traditional practice, you get 8, 10 minutes. So am I going to treat those patients different? Hey, you just have Blue Cross Blue Shield and a $10 copay. I'm only spending 5 minutes with you. I couldn't wrap my brain morally around how to do that. Um, so in a short period, hybrid, you're trying to transition and get off insurance. I could see that we can make it work temporarily, but long term, I just can't see how that would work in my office, in my brain. I want to be rid of insurance and all the evils that come with it. So hopefully this has been helpful. Go back and listen to part 1 of this about hybrids and the benefits, and put these two together and kind of smoke on them a little while and see what comes out of your pipe. Um, if you just leave a comment, if you have, Drshane at DPCmagic.com, Drshane at DPCmagic.com. Love to chat with you. We can go into the hybrid model, other things, talk about other issues. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'll try to get back with you in another week for another awesome Friday magic tip. Until then, you guys